Good afternoon. Welcome to this public session of the CSIS Williamsburg Forum. We'll be talking about Egypt this afternoon, and in particular, we are talking about the military in Egypt and the role of the military in a democratic Egypt. For those of you who are not familiar with the role of the military in Egypt, the military took power in 1952, ended the monarchy in the name of purging the system of corruption, and then ruled Egypt until Hosni Mubarak stepped down in February 2011. The military did not officially rule Egypt. Generally, the military led from behind the scenes. There were generals in suits who were the president of Egypt. Gamal Abdel Nasser was a colonel. Anwar Sadat was Abdel Nasser's vice president. Hosni Mubarak was Anwar Sadat's vice president. And Egypt had a history of essentially military rulers from the time of the revolution in 1952 until the time of the revolution in 2011. One of the most contentious issues in the future of Egypt has been, what is the role of the military in this new environment? The military had been sacrosanct because the military had established the system and the military had been walled off from the system. And now one of the things that Egyptians talk about actively is, should the military be subject to civilian rule? Should the military, by virtue of its national character, be above politics? And those are some of the issues we're going to discuss with our distinguished panelists. I'm turning to Seyfi.
Thank you very much, John. Well, actually, we're talking about an army for the largest Arab country in the region. Maybe the most respected army with a lot of experience, 5 wars. Of course, nobody wants war, but that's the reality, that the Egyptian army is the only army in the Arab world, Middle East, plus Israel, of course, and in Africa as well. The only army went through 5 wars. 5 wars is a lot of wars. You get experience out of that. The reason I'm bringing this point, that the Egyptian army has a lot of experience which is not available to many other armed forces all over the world, not only in the Arab area or in Middle East. Maybe we as an officers went through this. I went through 2 wars, as you know. We transferred the lessons and the experience to the existing officers, because all of us actually are out of the service now. But what I want to say, that it is the most respected army in the area. The role of Egyptian army is not only locally, actually, it's locally, regionally, and internationally up till now. Locally, because they have to defend, of course, the country, and domestically, and we've seen what they did in the 25th of January, and on the 28th of January when they went down to the streets, and I'm going to talk about that now. And regionally as well, they're still playing a good role when it's needed. The United Nations is really giving tasks every now and then to the Egyptian army. Right now we do have peacekeeping forces in Darfur in Sudan with the Blue Berets, as well as we do have the army, because I'm out now. They do have a hospital, military hospital in Beirut, Lebanon, up till now, helping the Lebanese for the medical services. Sometimes, you know, the clashes and all these things and issues going there. So sometimes they have lack of medical services. That's why the military Egyptian army went there, and they have their own officers, doctors, and other staff helping Lebanon for that. So that's what I call a regional service, and up till now they're still giving that when it's needed, because they know that the army can do that. I'm not talking about the Egyptian people, I'm talking about the regional people. Internationally, yes, they played that role before. They went to Kosovo, they went to Congo, or they went to Bosnia and Herzegovina. So yes, it is well known internationally, regionally and locally. It is a very professional armed forces. And I'll actually, when General Zaini mentioned that the Egyptian forces, when they went to free Kuwait from Saddam Hussein. I think they did very well, and I'm happy that General Zaini mentioned that. So we are talking about one kind of armed forces, one kind of army, at least in our region. It's not like any other army. With the help of the United States, giving the army, Egyptian army, the latest technology of weaponries and training, joining training and support, technical support and spare parts, ammunition, all this kind of stuff, Egyptian army will maintain the level needed at the region and at the area. That's why I'm happy that General Zaini as well mentioned the $1.3 billion military aid to the Egyptian army since 1987. They started that. Of course, you know that was part of the Camp David March 1979 agreement. And since 87, Egypt is starting to receive the $1.3 billion. And people now are talking about cutting of that or talking about maybe canceling that. I think it's going to be a big mistake if the Americans will do it. And Egypt is the second largest actual country receiving this kind of aid from United States. The first one is Israel with $2.4 billion. In 2008, George W. Bush his administration signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with Israel, to increase that to $3 billion as of 2018. But in the same time, they did not do that with Egypt. And we say, okay, leave it as is. We're going to be happy, but don't touch it. There is a debate for that now, I guess. Is that helping as well the United States? I guess yes, because according to our statistics, this $1.3 billion, it's only actually, you have to use it in the States with the equipment, military equipment made in USA. So it creates, according to our statistics, more than 10,000 jobs a year for American citizens. So everybody is benefiting out of that. It's not only Egypt is benefiting out of that, but the Americans are definitely benefiting out of that. Strategically, they benefit something else, that the most respected army in the area is using 80% of the Egyptian armed forces equipment and weaponries is made in USA. And 20% from some others, including Russia and China and all this kind of stuff. Not a lot of China anyway. So by doing that, by keeping the aid, you're still creating more jobs for the Americans. You're still providing the best armed forces in the region, in the Arab world, in Africa, in Middle East, with American equipments, as well as the other strategic cooperation like joining training and others. So it's a mutual benefit for everybody. The point of increasing that is out of the question. I don't think Egypt wants that. But decreasing that is an issue. So hopefully they will not do it. Enough for the aid, but again, the strategic cooperation between the two countries is essential for both of them. Why America wants Egypt? Why America wants to ally with Egypt? Why America wants to help Egypt to make sure it is a stable country? I believe it's many items, but let me concentrate on two items only. First item, as General Zaini said, and I fully agree with that, Suez Canal. Suez Canal is a very, very important pathway from east to west to east. Why it's important now? It is important for everybody because you have to go through the Suez Canal carrying oil, carrying crude oil, or carrying commodities, carrying military aid, whatever. You need that definitely with the threat of Iran. If Iran threatening USA, as we see now in the area, I think you need the Suez Canal badly. Why? Because you have to move your aircraft carriers from west to east to go to the Gulf area to be able to retaliate against Iran if Iran will throw some missiles or rockets against the American bases in the Gulf as well as in the south of Europe. So retaliation will not be from the states. Retaliation will be from Navy units as well as aircraft carriers from the Gulf, and you need Suez Canal for that. Secondly, Egypt has, which is very important to the states, has a mutual border with Israel. And Israel is a main alliance to the USA. So keeping the border with Egypt quiet, keeping the border in Egypt safe, in a safe way, that relaxes the entire region, not only Egypt, but that gives a more relaxing kind of atmosphere to the entire area. Definitely, America will benefit out of that. Many other items, but let us concentrate on this one. Oh, sorry. Then I think it's, I have more, but later on.
Thank you very much. So what we've heard is this is for a transitional period, this is okay, but this is going to be a continually moving target as Egypt's democracy unfolds over the coming years. And in your view,
okay,
is that the right perspective, and should there be limits on civilian oversight?
Right. Let me start by a few remarks, and then I'll come back to this point, which is actually going to answer the question as well. In regard of a civilian Minister of Defense in Egypt, it's very premature. I don't think now we are ready for that. I don't think the officers in the army will accept that.
Why is that?
Because I doubt it very much that we do have the caliber. Of course, Egypt is 92 million people, and maybe we do have a lot of people knows about the army, but not to lead the army, not to lead the most important armed forces in the area now. And it's a habit now, and it's a rule that the Minister of Defense is a field marshal or marshal, whatever. But to come and bring a lawyer, with all respect to lawyers, or engineer, or anybody, to that I think is going to be odd a little bit now, and I don't think this will be accepted by the army. And I know what I'm talking about. I'm very close to the army, and I know what they are thinking about. Maybe 20 years from now, maybe, I don't know, but right now is not the right time. The National Defense Council, which is actually one of the points in the Constitution, it's 15 people, 7 military and 8 civilian, including the president. So they have the majority if they want to say no at any time for anything. And the army didn't interfere in that. They said, fine, why not? It's Egypt at the end of the day. But again, the majority is between the civilians, not between the military. I just want to highlight this point. The civilians in front of military courts. Maybe Dr. Amr said there is no definition. How can you put a civilian in front of the military court now? I think it's clear. If you kill an officer, like what they do every day in Sinai now, then you have to go to the military court. If you injure one, if you shoot one and injure one, if you go and shoot an RPG in one of the barracks, which happens every day and now, then I don't think this guy has to go to a civilian court and tell him, come and let's see what you do, because actually the judge himself, we will not know what is going on there, what is the barracks looks like, what is the RPG looks like, whatever. So if you go and break a barracks and steal a gun, again, you have to be in front of a military, and this is everywhere, by the way, it's not only in Egypt. So its definition is very clear, and I don't think the army now wants to see any civilian in front of any court because of the headache of it. So they're not running after it, they don't like it, they don't want to do it, period. So this is from this point. In regard of, what was your question, John?
You were going to answer it.
Okay.
No, the question is whether there should be limits on civilian oversight.
Yes.
Are there things that are beyond the purview of civilian oversight in your judgment?
I guess so. I don't think there's going to be a limit now, but I think it's going to take its time, and it will come by itself later on. But there is no demand for that now. There is no need to do it today. That's what I'm talking about.
To do it having unlimited civilian oversight.
Yes. I doubt it very much, yes. I don't think people will accept that now. And even the army doesn't want that.
Thank you. I want to pick up General Zinni mention Pakistan, which in many ways evolved into a system where there were parallel military and civilian structures. What is the Egyptian read of how Pakistan's evolved? What parts of Pakistan's experience are worth emulating? What parts of Pakistan's experience must be avoided at any price? We'll start with the general.
Okay. Let me first correct a little piece of information in the beginning, mentioning that the army was ruling the country for 60 years continuously. That's not correct from my point of view. 1952, when the army did the revolution, or call it coup d'etat, call it revolution, whatever, and kick out the king of the country, King Farouk. Until 1954, they formed a cabinet government. 60% of those were uniformed officers. 40% were completely civilian. After that, 1954 until now, the army did not form any government at all. Few members, sometimes one or two, one minister of defense, another minister of military production, usually, but he is civilian as well. He used to be an officer, then he takes his uniform off, and then he starts to join the cabinet as a civilian man. But we haven't seen, for the last 25 years, for instance, 7 or 8 officers in the army. We haven't seen that.
You mean the cabinet?
In the cabinet, sorry.
Although probably 60 to 70.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Although 60 to 70% of the provincial governors.
Yes, no. That was maybe during the late 80s, beginning of 90s. But after that, yes, maybe 4 or 5 of them. And up till now, we insist, I like to see the hard and difficult governorates governed by an army officer, ex-army officer. It's not army officer, ex-army officer. Like Sinai, for instance. You know, Sinai now is not very stable. So northern Sinai, southern Sinai, I don't think a civilian governor will be suitable for that now. When you're talking about west of Egypt, Matruh, which is again the border with Libya, and you know what's going on in Libya, what's going on in the border with Libya. I don't think a civilian governor would be suitable now. Anyway, this is what we're talking about. But we're not talking about Cairo, Alexandria, or something like that. This is not anymore under the army, ex-army officers. But even the new ones, which we're going to have some new governors next week, I guess, or within a few days. 10 of them or 8 of them will be changed. And people now are saying that we would like to see ex-army officers in those governorates because they are the suitable people to run it. So it's not a matter of do you want to go to get the job. What is the job? I mean, it's governor. I think I'm a general, ex-general. I like to be ex-general more than be governor now. It's not a really good job to do, believe me. It's not really the right one to do. But anyway, Pakistan is not exactly the example which we can look at and do it. Why? Because it's a mixture between both. Now the army mentioned clearly many times from the Field Marshal Sisi himself or the spokesman of the army many times, and you can see that in the internet and their sites, that they will not touch the political life of Egypt, period. They don't want to be involved anymore in the political life of this country, of Egypt. They learned a lesson in the 18 months with the SCAF, the Supreme Council of Armed Forces. And I don't think they want to see that now. I can confirm that to you now and to everybody. So it's the Pakistani example is not really the one they are looking for because it is mixture between a uniformed officers and civilians, which is not going to be the case at all in Egypt whatsoever. I can guarantee that. You will not see a uniformed general or officer in the cabinet unless he's Minister of Defense or running the country somehow. This is finished. This is over.
Retired officer?
Retired officers, and as I mentioned, in some places like special governorates like this one, but you won't see a retired officer Minister of Education, as you mentioned, or Minister of whatever. No, you won't see that again. They don't want it.
As presidential candidate, do you think there'll be retired generals running?
I personally don't want to do that.
Your political career is over, is what you're telling me.
No, well, the last election, people they asked me to do it, and my family said don't do it. I'm not saying that just for but really it's a tough job now in Egypt. It's not an easy job to do. It's not a nice job to do, believe me. Being aware of that is much better. Now,
General?
Well, again, the Turkish example is not really like Egypt. I was talking about uniformed officers who were running the country, involved in the political life every day, controlling the entire civilian life. And when Erdogan came, he started to change that. But we're not talking about the same case at all in Egypt. The other point is the people in the street, they were split again. Some of them, they need, or they want at least, the military people to stay. And that happens in few demonstrations and riots in Turkey during that time. And others, they want to change, which is normal, people with and people against. Again, the issue is not applicable in Egypt at all. We are talking about an army who doesn't want to touch the political life of the country, who doesn't want to run the country anymore whatsoever. And the issue is they are ready to help whenever it's needed, domestically or locally. If the president or anybody, the people of Egypt want them to come down for a certain mission, they will come down for a certain mission, but without touching the political life, without running the country. And I will stop in that.
Well, just